are a yoga teacher, a dancer. I think we were calling it a spiritual citizen of Chicago.
Correct. Yes.
I kind of love that. Now, Luke, we met, I think in kind of a cool way, because we met through ecstatic dance.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
I can confirm this.
And I think that's gonna come up in the conversation. But I really loved that. I was really surprised because if you have not ever seen Luke dance or danced with Luke, gentleman is an incredible dancer. And we met at the first time you did ecstatic dance, right?
Correct. Yeah. It was like May, I think.
Yeah. In fact, Alexander and I later went to. Alexander might have been at that show too, actually. But enough about that. Today's topic is one I'm almost a little nervous to get into, and also kind of a special topic for me. It'll be kind of nice because both our guests today, we're going to be kind of talking about more like traditionally spiritual things. And so today's topic is the shadow and working with the shadow. Now, I wanted to open it up to you, and could you just define the shadow for us?
Yeah, I would say the shadow is your darkest parts of your pain. It's the parts of your pain that you are afraid to sit with. It's the parts of yourself that were so hurt that you separated them from your heart as a way of saying, I can't handle this amount of pain in this moment. And so our shadow comes back up at a later date saying, this is how I was hurt. If you're having like obtrusive thoughts or unconscious thoughts, or you're feeling really heavy, dark feelings, all part of your shadow. Your shadow only comes up when you're ready to face it. But we are oftentimes like raised in families where we are, to some people, I would say to some degree, me included, we're more hurt than we were loved sometimes. And it leads us to be more identified with our shadow and with our pain than we are with what we truly are, which is love, kindness, respect. And everyone has varying degrees of which they are acting, thinking from their shadow, the parts of themselves that still have yet to integrate back into their heart, and also parts of themselves that remember their power, their love, their kindness, their respect.
Now, I'm really glad we're talking about this because it really did need to be talked about at some point, because a lot of people are interested in spirituality. Or spiritual activities, like, because they're fun and they're powerful, stuff like tarot to see what's going on in your life, or sound baths just because they're awesome, or dance because maybe they want to be expressive. But what not everyone realizes is that as you work on yourself and you grow spiritually, your shadow and your darkness is going to come up. And it's not coming up because there's something wrong with you or you're doing something wrong. It's coming up because you are doing a spiritual practice. It's coming to the light. Have you had this experience?
Yeah. So when you start to become more aware of the choices you're making, the thoughts you're thinking, that there's different options than what you were led to believe when you were an adolescent, that life isn't all about making money or having sex or having a beautiful partner, that there's more meaning to life than just that. And when you start to become aware of that, and let's say you start a spiritual practice, maybe you start meditating or praying or regularly working with Reiki or sound healing or whatever feels, or dancing even, whatever feels called to you, you are essentially, as you're waking up, what really waking up is embodying more of your light. It's embodying more of your infinite power that is waiting in the background to be welcomed forward. And it's welcomed forward by an ability to say the choices that my parents made, the choices that I was raised to believe are mine, I don't have to make. And there's different options for me, and I can follow what I'm passionate about. And the moment we start to follow our passion is the moment we're choosing a path of greater lightness. We're choosing things that light us up. And as we choose things that light us up, we embody more of our light. And what really light is, or love, or your presence, is awareness. And so if you're becoming more aware of your patterns or codependency or fantasies you have that you're like, that wouldn't serve me or the other person, that's your awareness saying, starting to enter those fantasies, starting to enter it. And as you become aware of it, the awareness is already healing it on your behalf.
A lot of people don't realize that just the plain awareness can actually do a lot. Yet, before we dive into that topic, one of the questions I really wanted to pick your mind on, to ask you, was why do you think we even hold a shadow? Like, why do you think our souls just don't let things roll off?
Yeah, I was thinking about this like a week or two ago, and I think the shadow, like, if you want to think about the world's unconsciousness or just the unconsciousness for you, when we were hurt, when we were traumatized, when we were abused, when we went through traumatic events, we were often at young, vulnerable parts of our life, and it was too much for our heart to handle. And so the moment when you really start to become aware of your shadow again along your journey is the level in which your maturity, your level of self-respect, and your strength of your heart is at a place where it can face its deepest pain that it survived, and your shadow separated off saying, I will wait to come back up to the surface when they are ready to fully face and feel me.
That really reminds me of, I remember back in college, I did a lot of studying of psychology, and they talk about something called the human negativity bias. And just simply put, it's that people tend to emphasize mentally the negative over the positive. And of course, a lot of people are understandably quick to say that, that's because of evolution, that it's more beneficial for an animal to remember that which hurt it, that which caused it danger, so that it wouldn't remember it. And there's probably some truth in that. Some of the logic does fall apart a little bit, because then you would think that the animal would almost be just as or similarly biased towards positivity, because it would remember, oh, this is where I found food. Oh, this is where I found a mate. Oh, this is where I am safe. But I once heard that actually, spiritually, the negativity bias is because the spirit brings something to your attention and it says, please heal me. Like, let me show you this. Like, you, please. Like, it's so it comes to our mind again and again. Because I know a lot of people probably feel like the shadow comes up for them a lot.
Right. Yeah, and it's coming up to show you how it was hurt in the past. And it's saying, this is how the pain I was shown in the past, and I'm going to replay it with you to show you I was hurt, and it's my way of begging for you to love me. I want to say one more thing. And it also is our ego or shadow or inner child. You can give it all any different term because it will show up differently. Your shadow is just like your most dark, most unconscious, most rageful, aggressive part of your ego. But it shows up as things you don't want to face, or your past pain, or things that you feel really uncomfortable about, because it's saying, if I show them this side of me, then they'll push me away, and that will keep me as I am. Then I won't have to change. And the moment you go, no matter what I'm feeling internally, no matter what thoughts, what feelings, what experiences I'm having in my body, I take it as a moment to love that part, to love myself, and to give myself greater care and support. Is the moment the shadow loses its power over you. One more thing. And I think sometimes people will visually see like demons, or they'll have dreams of like demons or or like dark entities, and the dark entities are just saying, please push me away, because if you push them away, you are just helping them remember the separation that they are. And the moment you say, honey, I don't care what kind of costume you wear, I'm just going to love you deeper, is the moment the shadow takes off its mask and it becomes your inner child. And it says, thank you for sitting with me. Thank you for seeing me. And I feel safe enough now to remember the innocence that I've always been.
See, I was going crazy because you said something that I had also had an experience with. And it blew me away because it was like, oh my God, like somebody else had the same realization. And it was when you said, like, essentially the choice for love, regardless of like what happens outside of me or what I feel inside. Right. So many people don't realize that they think just because they're feeling very negative, and of course our feelings, I mean, okay, look, if you're like super spiritual, you've read Eastern things, you've probably heard like, okay, that's not you. But the average way, the normal way of being is that whatever I feel, that's me. Whatever I think at one level, that's me. Yeah. But when you realize that if I can be unconditional in my choice, right, even if I feel like garbage, like terrible, that's where the power lies.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say you are not like your anxiety, your depression, your negative thoughts, but you are what makes up those. And what makes up any feeling or any thought are particles of love. And they're only going to remember or dissolve back into the love they are the moment you face it and say, thank you, anxiety, for being here with me. I love you, anxiety, not because you are something that I'm enjoying, but because as I say, I love you, anxiety, I'm helping anxiety remember the particles of love that make up anxiety. And anxiety really is just a message about my experience, whether I'm moving too fast, whether I'm making choices that are out of alignment for my highest good, or spending time doing activities that aren't serving my well-being, or whatever it is. That's anxiety. Anxiety is a call for more balance, or to take time slower, or to take time for some self-care. But anytime you are telling a part of yourself that you love it, you're just helping it remember the love that it's always been, that it's just acting as a part that's heavy, or a heavy feeling, as a way of saying this is the next level of pain that's being cleared out of you.
You know, one of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize with the shadow, or whatever you want to call it, with the darker aspects of our nature, we all fundamentally always want to feel good. Well, I know some people who kind of like feeling bad. And though I think it works for them very well, I would say that's not the norm. Yeah. Because even then, they kind of get a good feeling out of feeling like shit on purpose. One person in this audience knows exactly who I'm talking about, but I digress. Two people, really. But anyway, especially spiritual people think that my goal is to feel good all the time. And obviously, spiritual practice, people stick with it because over time you feel good at more of the time and at a deeper level.
Yeah.
However, what I think people miss is that a lot of our negative emotions, which can go too far,
right,
our thoughts can be extreme and dramatic,
right,
but at our simplest, negative emotions are often telling you something correct. You know,
they're telling you something about your experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I just want to say, like, your feelings, your thoughts are just, even your shadow or whatever you're perceiving is just giving you messages about your experience. About, like, if you have a noisy mind, maybe you're just feeding your mind too much and like spending too much time searching for the next thing, whether it's information on the internet or a partner or whatever, scrolling on dating apps, or like your feelings. Like, depression is when you feel depressed, what majority of the time you're feeling is you're feeling your ego dissolving and dying, and that's a feeling of depression. And then as a new part of you is born, it's the ego reinventing itself into the next highest level. We never get rid of our ego, but our ego does go through death the more aware we become. And to just bring it back to the shadow, whenever you're feeling your shadow, whenever you're feeling more unconsciousness, feeling like you just, whatever your shadow is geared around. Mine was always geared around like sex. I used pornography in high school a lot. And so when my shadow comes up, it's a lot of like sexual fantasies. But really, it's just as it's coming to the surface, and I'm facing and being aware of it, it's already being healed out of me. And if you want to turn it into some type of art, whether that's journaling or painting or dancing, that's how everything you express is expressing it out of you. So if you feel like something's festering within you, whether it's a feeling or thoughts or desires, finding some type of art is going to help literally pull it out of you, because as you honor things and acknowledge things, you have nothing left to learn from them. The moment you honor your anxiety, honor depression, honor your unconsciousness is the moment it starts to dissolve, because everything is here saying, can you love me? And the more you love the things within you that are the most uncomfortable, the more you can love anyone around you, no matter how they show up. And that's the real journey, is being able to take the feelings we have and the experiences around us as a way to care and love and support ourselves deeper. And when people are being respectful and treat us right, then caring, loving, and respecting and supporting the people around us. And that's the real journey, is nothing's here to get you. Nothing's happening because you did something wrong in the past or a past life. Everything is an invitation to love yourself more, to love. And as you love yourself, you're helping everything remember the state that it is, which is love. And it will start to dissolve the moment you honor and acknowledge your thoughts, your feelings, and express it through art.
You know, you remind me a lot of just 2 weeks ago, we had our lovely young friend Nayla on, and she was saying, admittedly, something very similar. And it's funny because you often find that many of the most loving people you meet have have really been through the ringer, you know? And something I've been wanting to invite you to do, in whatever way you feel comfortable, is how did you learn these things? What was your story? In whatever way you feel comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think in high school, if I were to talk about my life just a little bit, I would say in high school I felt very alone, very like I had no voice. Like I lost all my self-esteem. I was like scared to just go up and talk to most people. Like I remember like when I started college, like, and people took a general interest of me, like that for me was like surprising. Like to just be noticed was like was like, whoa, what is this? I felt
Just
really
like one of the most basic human interactions.
Yeah. I mean, I think now and I've always been to some degree a very like friendly, outgoing person, but in high school I pretty much lost all of that.
It's so incredible because as we work with our shadow and as we grow spiritually, it's like what David Bowie said as he was dying, is that you become the person you always knew you were.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like I would not be the person I am today without going through that. Like everything is helping you grow to a higher level that if it didn't happen, you would never be able to reach the level that you're at. Everything happens perfectly. All you have to do is choose to grow from what you're experiencing. And I think that's like been the invitation I took in my life is, okay, like it doesn't matter how much pain I've been through. It just matters what I do with it. And the more I take it as a reason to care for myself and to be kinder and gentler with me and with others, the more it became a gift and less it became a curse. And you asked where I learned a lot of this stuff, and I was actually he's doing, there's a really good spiritual teacher, which I'll give him a little shout out because he's really inspired my journey a lot. His name's Matt Kahn, Kahn. He's doing a retreat this weekend that I was actually just listening to before coming over here. But I found him when I was 21, and I've probably listened to like everything he's done, and he's really inspired. Like I go to open mics and I talk about stuff like this. and he's been a massive inspiration. And I would also say has really helped me find my way out of all the, because really when you're thinking about your shadow it's becoming aware of how identified you are with unconsciousness, with mistreating yourself or mistreating with others. Like all the addictive patterns we're lost in is our identity to our pain, is the identity to the upbringing that we survived to, however if it was light and happy or a little bit more dark and traumatic. Your shadow is your identity to your painful past, and spirituality is just remembering yourself as the blank canvas that you were born, remembering the natural power, natural innocence, natural love that you were born as a baby, and then the world teaches you differently, as the world saying this is what's still being healed out of the planet that you actually came to make an impact on by facing and feeling it in yourself. Everything that other people took out on you is actually your greatest contribution to healing the planet just by healing yourself from it.
I want to, just to share a little bit of my experience with it. Because like I said, we met at the Ecstatic Dance over at the Rhythm Sanctuary, or the Altar Sanctuary, Rhythm Chicago. Really great place. And I was listening to some of your stuff earlier today, and I really liked what you were saying about the innocence, and that one of the things that helps you move through is the expression in some form.
Yeah.
Now, shadow work, any facing of whatever you want to call it, whether you're spiritual or you're just like in therapy or you're just having a fucking hell of a time of it. One of the things that can really hit you, like you were saying, like when you were ready, is how much can come up.
Right. Yeah.
And I recall it was, I think it was like 3 weeks ago. I was over at Altar. I think we had even danced that night.
Yeah.
And it's so weird because for someone who hasn't done like a dance therapy or a somatic practice or like this kind of a thing, it can really hit you. Here I am in this room just dancing by myself, and it came up so hard I actually had to like sit down. Like so much sadness and so much pain, like looking at other people infuriated me. And it was insane.
Yeah.
How do you, and we're coming close to the end, so if you could give us some last thoughts on, because I'd like to share what I learned by going through that, of how do you deal with the worst of it?
Yeah. Can I ask a question to you first?
Yeah.
What was infuriating about seeing other people dance?
Just that they could form connections with each other?
Yeah, and like feeling left out.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah, and
love can be painful to see other people have.
Right. No, absolutely. And it's I definitely felt the same way too, or feeling like feelings I hadn't felt since like high school, like feeling left out or feeling jealous.
They don't really go anywhere.
Right. Yeah. And then you're dancing and you're like, oh, I feel the same way I felt in high school. And, I think it's beautiful that dance is there because dance helps you work through all your fear of like connecting with others. And like everything that blocked you from connecting with others comes up because dance can be incredibly intimate. And so like the parts of you that say I'm scared of intimacy are then what show themselves when you start and I like felt the same way. Like the first time like going to ecstatic dance, dancing with myself was fine, but then like to think about asking someone else to dance was like terrifying. It's like I don't think I can do that. So
I loved what you said earlier, that as you become aware of a thing, and I just want to say this because for anyone in the audience who might be experiencing some of this stuff and really want to let go of the pain that we hold within ourselves. As Luke was saying, just by becoming aware of it, just by feeling it, allowing it,
Yeah.
and whether you give like loving self-talk or even just feeling it and letting it go. When I was there, I don't think I'd felt that depressed acutely in many years. And I remember, I don't even know if this is a good idea. Like, people ask me, do I enjoy this? And I said, I don't know if I can say I enjoy this.
Yeah.
But the amazing thing was, the thing that your thoughts don't tell you while you're going through it and while you're experiencing the shadow is that just by feeling these things, not overanalyzing them, allowing them and loving them, is that they process.
Yeah.
And I had a dream so beautiful that night. I saw a forest that was shimmering so beautifully. I was actually crying in the dream.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is what you can get out of facing your shadow. With that, Luke, I just want we are going to kind of close out here.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I'd love, plug your shit. Let us know what you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can find me on YouTube. It's Luke Lindstrom, Lindstrom, 1111. So 2 11s.
We'll make sure it's
and
we'll get you a link or something.
And then I'm on Instagram. It's kind of just like a personal. I've like tried. It's kind of a personal Instagram, but you're welcome to follow me on that too. It's Luke C. Lindstrom.
And where do you teach yoga these days?
I teach at Yoga Now, downtown Chicago, Friday, 4:30 p.m. And then at LA Fitness in Edgewater, Monday, 8:30 a.m., Tuesday, Thursday, 5:45 p.m.
Check out Luke's his YouTube if you want to learn a little bit more about the topic you were discussing today, because one thing that we didn't get to talk about was innocence, and I'm actually kind of upset that we didn't have that time.
Wow.
But that... Oh, we're still good on time? We've been given the okay from the boss. Good, because I did want to talk about that briefly. No, because I was listening to your stuff.
Yeah.
This
cool.
is like funny and like a little embarrassing how it's going.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to allow this embarrassment to come up and feel it.
Right.
And that's going to be my shadow.
That's amazing.
But I thought this was important because I was listening to some of your stuff as we were going over, and you kept talking about how we are fundamentally innocent.
You're correct. Yeah.
What I think we get angry at ourselves for, like you said,
right.
our shadow expresses itself as really awful stuff sometimes. Like we all know like how dirty and dark a thought can be that exists in the human.
Absolutely.
I mean, even Jesus said like what wickedness like comes out from the heart of man. Like literally Jesus said that in Matthew.
Yeah.
But we get so mad at ourselves for feeling that we forget, as you said, that we are fundamentally innocent.
Yeah.
How do you see that relating to our shadow?
Your shadow is the innocence that forgot itself as the innocence. As you went through experiences that were more harmful than they were helpful, that like hurt you or really buried you in pain, sections of your heart that were born innocent separate off from the whole. And they separate off from the whole because the pain would be too much for you to face in that moment. This is what I was talking about earlier. So like any unconsciousness is really serving you, one, to not, if you explore unconscious, whatever, like pornography, whatever your unconscious desires are.
Some people it's like drugs.
Yeah,
or
drugs.
Having to make a lot of money.
right.
Getting people to like you.
Yeah, anything that's not authentically you that creates more harm than good. You could think of it as a form of unconsciousness. But it separates off from your heart as a way of saying, like, it's carrying your pain because it would be too much for you in that moment in childhood and adolescence for you to fully feel that. And so it becomes separate and forgets the innocence as it is, so that when you are actually ready to face that pain, it will come back up to the center. And as you care for yourself deeper, as you tell that part of you, the unconscious desires, if I'm experiencing darkness, there could only be light in this darkness. There could only be innocence in this darkness. This darkness has just been hurt so deeply that it forgot its innocence. And so as we take time to love our shadow and say, thank you, shadow, for being here with me. I love you, shadow. I'm grateful for your presence. Thank you for teaching me how to sit with something that's uncomfortable. Thank you for teaching me how to say I love you to something I don't want to say I love you to. Because I'm only saying I love you to help remind it of the love or the innocence that was so buried with pain that it forgot it.
It just does make me think that, because yes, a fundamental spiritual teaching, or really just anyone who's seeking to grow in any way, whether you want to call it spiritual or just as a person, is that you are safe to experience yourself,
right,
in any way,
right.
And at the same time, and I love how much you emphasize love, because love is, to me, such an important virtue.
Most important part.
I think so. But I do just want to add the note that you do have to pair it with wisdom, because you have to know when you're experiencing too much and I need to step back.
Yeah.
And also you need to know that, yes, it is safe to experience the darkest side of ourselves, yet you don't want to ever do that without wisdom, because if you allow yourself to go down the darkest place, the most dinosaur part of your brain would love to go, a fool will misconstrue these teachings and say, oh, that just means I can buy guns and, send them to Africa.
And people
and I can
do that.
I want.
Yeah,
and they
people do that.
And they do. And they think that's because, and they try to justify it because I've been hurt, so I can do these terrible things. And they think it'll solve their pain, but it doesn't.
I mean, they're not even that aware. They're just like, I hear this thought. I think it's a great idea. Maybe I'll make money from it. Let's do that. And this thing came to me like, you should feel your shadow. Don't believe your shadow. Right. Your and shadow.
I think we'll have to just end on that. That's a great note.
Yeah.
I love that, but we will end on that note.
Cool. Sweet.
So
awesome.
Luke, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
About spirituality, episode 9.
Woo.